Well, Nancy, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Yes, nice to meet you, Joe. Happy to be on your famous interviews.
So I love the artwork back there. Whose is that?
So the ones on the side are actually just prints. They're
Okay,
canvas prints. The ones in the middle are all mine.
I like it.
So since I can't draw, my strategy is to dab and be an impressionist.
Very cool. I love it. I love it.
Thank
I,
you.
this is one of mine behind me, so I love the
Yeah.
impressionistic kind of movement. So
So
yeah,
you drew that too yourself?
one of my paintings back there. Yeah,
Awesome. Yeah, it's
yeah,
the United States, right? The outline.
yes, yeah,
Yeah, very
yeah.
cool.
So where are you located?
I'm based in Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Okay, well, congratulate. I'm in Kansas City, so you beat us in the Super Bowl, which is great. And I'm pulling for the Phillies. I'm all for. I think Philadelphia and Kansas City have a lot in common. Very blue collar, very dedicated
Mhm.
to their culinary arts and culture and sports. So
Yes.
very like-minded cities for sure.
Yeah,
So.
a lot of diehard fans here who climb grease poles to celebrate.
Yes, they do. I noticed that. Yeah. So let's get into your good work. And before we do that, I want to know 5 years ago, we were really getting in to this pandemic
Yes.
and how we were going to get out of it. How did you ultimately make it through that time period? And how did it affect the way that you approach work today?
How did I make it through the pandemic? Well, I baked and made kimchi a lot. I'm not even Korean. For your listeners, I'm actually Chinese background.
Yeah.
But at that time, baking and fermenting food just made sense. There was just so much time.
Yeah.
I also have two or three neighbors in the area that were my pandemic buddies. We'll go for walks. We'll actually, cook dinner and eat together. Actually, my next door neighbor, she's moved away since then. She has a daughter, but then she actually lived in France for a bit and she loves cooking. So our deal is that I'll buy a piece of meat and she'll do her magic with it, and I'll go over and eat dinner with her once a week at least. And
Nice.
I was eating so well. I felt like I was in a French rustic restaurant. So that's how I got through the pandemic. And in terms of how it informed my work, so that's a funny story because before the pandemic, I was actually a business consultant in the pharmaceutical industry.
Okay.
And during the beginning pandemic, we had a client that already pulled away. So we actually lost that client and our whole business unit got dissolved. So I was laid off, my manager was laid off. But thankfully, very quickly, they placed me into a very different business unit, which I know nothing about and had to learn from scratch. And they had a certain culture that was very ambition oriented and with these leaders. But then a year later, all four of the leaders just left the company.
Oh,
So yeah, you can imagine it was like, whoa, what's happening? And a new leader came. And whenever new leaders come to the table, they always have these big, bold visions, right? That's how they got the job because they were promising these things that they could turn around. So I already saw the team had low morale, was feeling really confused by all the changes, but also didn't know what to do with these big, bold goals. So I went to the leader and I said, hey, you have great vision, but most of our junior people are not business people. Let me help you translate it into roles, responsibility, and timelines, and let's fix the culture. For it wasn't a secret that the culture was not working out.
yeah.
So I actually ran team meetings and trainings for a whole year. And we had really open discussions, authentic discussions of what culture we want. Everybody had a voice. Didn't matter how senior, how junior you were. And when I say culture, I don't mean just the word. I really mean the embodiment of it through what speech, how we talk to each other, our physical actions, and our behavior. I want examples of when you say innovative, what speech, action, behavior actually exemplifies that, right? Or else it just becomes pie in the sky.
Yeah.
So we got that. And then in less, and maybe 4 months or so, something organically emerged called human first culture. Let's treat each other as human beings first, right? I know it sounds simple, but and it brought together really this cohesion. For example, one of our coworkers, her grandfather passed away in Japan. So we really came together to figure out how can you go to Japan and be with your family and make sure the projects are carried through. Another coworker, her family was hit by a hurricane in Florida, where she had two young children. So they were living out of suitcases for a while. So we rallied and raised some funds to help her through that time, but also figure out like how do you make sure you take care of your kids and your family while the projects are not dropped, right? And then let's talk about impact. Let's be real. Like you're like, okay, all this fuzzy culture stuff doesn't work. We're actually able to get new projects. This is during the pandemic. Do the projects well. And then finally, our annual employee survey, which is anonymous, went from the bottom to the top. So, and then also our team was a team of 15 originally, but it was a revolving door where five people can basically came and left, right?
Yeah.
So a third of turnover on this team is stabilized, and later on is a testament to our work and my manager, the leader's work. Now the team has ballooned to 50 people. So the organization saw how well this team was going and be like, yep, we're going to add you more divisions and more units to your team. So that's how my manager actually grew in her powers. Yeah.
So let's get into the heart and soul of what you do on a daily basis today. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of fifth graders at career day, and one of the
Yes.
kids is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?"
Yes.
How do you answer them?
I'm a coach. I'm speaking to you right now. I'm also a trainer. I help people who have big goals they want to get to or things they want to do, but there's something difficult around it. And they need to collaborate and work with other people. I help them create a toolkit. You know how if you go to a school trip, you're going to pack your book bag with lunch, toys, water, a snack, right? Same thing when you go into difficult situations, you also need a book bag full of tools that can help you navigate it.
So what did you want to be when you were in the fifth grade? What was your dream?
An artist, actually. I love drawing. I like anime. I don't know if you know
Yeah.
what anime is. It's
Oh yeah,
Japanese cartoons.
of course.
So yeah, I grew up in watching a lot of anime, except they were dubbed in Cantonese because back then we didn't have access to the actual Japanese thing. So my parents are from Hong Kong and southern China. So we used to rent the VHS.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to draw. I want to draw all these characters I watch on TV every day.
So do you show your work? Do you have shows?
I mean, I'm not an artist.
Oh,
So,
okay. So you just it's something that you just do. It's
and when I was a kid, that was what I wanted to be, an artist. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, I was just talking about the paintings. They're wonderful. I just didn't know if
Thank
you
you.
put them in shows.
No, I'm not a show. I
Okay.
mean, people would like to see me show. I would love to. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Take me back to your childhood. What were these foundational elements that eventually, the seeds that were planted that helped you become a trainer and a coach and to motivate people? What were those seeds that were planted that evolved into who you are?
Yeah. So let's back up. Leading up to my childhood, my parents actually immigrants from China. They left because of the Cultural Revolution, which is a time of huge change and tumult and turmoil in China. And they came to Brooklyn, New York, where they still are. And I grew up, born and raised in Brooklyn, living in two worlds. And I think this is something most people have an experience of. It just depends on how extreme they are.
Yeah.
So China, I didn't even speak English till I was in elementary school. Cantonese is my first tongue. So there's a lot of Chinese cultural aspect, especially being a young girl in a more patriarchal and hierarchical construct that I was like, oh, I didn't understand, right? Listen to your elders, be quiet, be studious, and all these things. I was studious. I did the last thing very well.
Yeah.
But then I went to school, and then there was American culture, right? Be loud, be a rebel, break rules, be a pioneer. So do you see these two coming together? It was very confusing
Yeah.
because in America, people don't see me as American. And sometimes I even get the whole like, you speak English beautifully. I'm like, I've been speaking English since elementary school.
Yeah.
But I go to Asia and Hong Kong and China, and without opening my mouth, they know I'm not from there. The way I look, physically look, the way I carry myself, even though I speak fluent Cantonese, they know I'm not from that area. So who's the real Nancy, right? And how do you reconcile when working in different cultures, so to speak, different lived experiences and viewpoints? And how do we find commonality? Is it possible, right? Even when it's difficult, even when it seems like they're worlds apart. I was also the first in my family to go to college. My parents didn't get past elementary school education because of the Cultural Revolution, and people were sent to work in the fields and factories in China. So I got to go to college, but even though I was academically gifted, I was a first generation low income college student. And in that, it was difficult because my parents to this day don't have a resume. They never went to college. So I had to navigate those experiences myself. I'm going to pause and close my door very quickly.
Sure, you bet.
Okay. And then I went to the work world, right? So my parents are super blue collar. My mom used to be a sweatshop factory sewer. You think a lot of your clothing, you look in the label, you're like, oh, made in Southeast Asia, Vietnam. That was not true in the 80s and 90s. A
Right.
lot of sweatshop labor were actually in Manhattan, in Chinatown, in a garment district,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And people were paid per piece they sewed, not per hour,
Wow.
right? So my dad was a chef in a Chinese restaurant. He also then delivered seafood to Japanese restaurants. And my mom later on became a sample maker with a designer, right? So again, it's like, how do you then navigate the corporate space
Yeah.
when I don't come from that?
Yeah.
So I think that is a lot of idea first, I think. A lot of times when we think we're in a difficult situation, it's really because it's the first time we ever encounter it, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's the first time arguing with a friend, a first breakup, right? Or a first time getting laid off, or first time not getting along with someone to that degree. So how do we navigate these first time situations and not resent ourselves or other people? That's what I want people to explore.
Yeah.
Is there a path that doesn't so-called like me versus you, us versus them kind of situation?
Yeah. So who's been kind of an inspiration for you? Doing all these things the first time, all of the evolution of your career, who has been that inspirational force?
Yeah, well, when I was young, Einstein, because I was into the science, I was a science and math kid, so I just loved that he could like change the world with his crazy hair and deep thoughts.
Yeah.
More recently, I have three books I always recommend to people to read. Just I love these books. One is Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah.
I don't know if you read that.
Yeah.
Just feel like he lovingly punched me in the face to wake up. I don't know if you got that
Yeah.
perspective. The second is Nonviolent Communication by Marsha Rosenberg,
Okay.
because a lot of people say we can meditate, we could do, all these things, but what happens when we get off the cushion? What happens when we step on the yoga mat, right?
Yeah.
We need actual tools to help us get along better, or at least see and hear each other. So nonviolent communication is one of the ways. And the third is a person is braiding sweetgrass. If you read the book,
I've heard about it.
yes, Robin Wall Kimmerer. She's a Native American woman who loves plants and is also an ecologist. And just combining her indigenous wisdom with science, it's very beautiful because a lot of times, especially we live in the world of climate change, and there's a lot of finger pointing. She talks about loving the earth.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And if we truly love something, we want to take care of it. If we
Yeah.
truly love someone, we want to take care of it. We care for their well-being.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those three people are a huge influence.
So what motivates you every day to wake up to do this work? To not only do the work that you do to help influence and shape people's perspective on business, but to also take care of your own soul. What is that motivation every day for you?
Yeah. So to take care of me is because I cannot pour from an empty cup. Have you ever had people say like, "Oh, just be curious, just be kind," or when you tell like a 2-year-old, like, and I cannot be curious. I cannot come from a space of curiosity or listening to you, even though I know you're listening to me a lot more than I am to you, Joe, right now. I cannot do that if my cup is dry and empty, right?
Sure.
I'll feel tired, annoyed, frustrated, peeved, right? So when I fill my own cup, then I think what motivates me, I look at the world around us, I see a lot of potential. Humans have the ability to do like amazing things,
Yeah.
not just like technologically. I want to really take that back. We always tend to put our technology and civilization as the citation of why humans are so amazing. But I think the ability to care for each other
Hmm.
and to bring people along, right? And I see right now we're in a situation where people don't see that as much. We tend to say this is what's wrong, that is what's wrong, this group of people, that group of people, right? And I think the more we could connect with each other and have these difficult conversations, because where we're struggling is that we all have similar needs.
Yeah.
Well, need for safety, for security, for pleasure, for fun, for
Yep.
dignity, right?
Yep.
But where we're fighting or where the difficult conversations are to be had is the strategy. How do we get there? You and I both want to be safe, Joe.
Yeah.
We live in a place where we want to be well fed and taken care of and we want to enjoy ourselves. Like, but your strategy and I might be slightly different. And if I say, your way is always wrong, and you say my way is wrong, then we're not going to go anywhere.
Which is why I think this podcasting space is so essential, especially in this modern era. I'm so relieved that it's become such a big world for people to delve into and to hear different perspectives because I've discovered there's a lot of gray area. We are way
Mm-hmm.
more aligned. All of the principles of
Yes.
safety, the Maslow hierarchy, we are
Yes.
we are all apart and swimming through that pyramid. And I think that unfortunately the media and the forces around us, government, otherwise, makes it look like it's all black and white, but
Yes.
there's a lot of commonality. We all really are going towards a lot of the same things.
We are. And I think way I would work with clients is that we can't outthink our way out problem. And I think, like I told you, we want to have these difficult conversations. There's a book called Difficult Conversation and Crucial Conversation, right? They're bestsellers. And I think we jump into it saying like, oh, I could just do this strategy and it works out. So I actually want to take it back like two steps back. The first step is actually before we connect to anyone else is actually to connect to ourselves, but first connect to our bodies,
Yeah.
right? Our body keeps the score. So have you ever been in a situation where you're encountering a difficult situation and you're like, oh no, I'm going to think about how I'm going to solve it, right? And then you think about it thinking, oh yeah, no, this is what I'm going to tell them. I'm going to schedule this date. I'm going to make these 3 bullet points about why my thing works. And then, okay, so if you found a solution, when you just like stop thinking about it,
Right.
but then 5 hours later, you're still thinking about it. Half a day later, and next day, you're still thinking about it. So again, if you have a plan, you have a solution, why are you still thinking about it?
Right.
It's because your body is holding on to that tension.
Yeah.
And when our body, have you heard of a amygdala hijack?
Yeah.
Or the
Yeah.
reptile brain, the limbic system, right? In our brain is like fight, fight, or freeze.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is actually connect to our bodies. And there's some things even as simple as like taking a breath,
Sure.
noticing we're breathing, shaking our body out. Have you ever seen dogs or ducks fight in nature?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then they go to the side and then they shake it all out.
Yep.
And then suddenly they're like, want to play? They're
Right.
literally just fighting 2 minutes ago. They're like, want to play? Right?
Yeah.
So another thing is like, oh, your midline. So the middle of our body, because we have our left and right brain, they're not exactly like one is logic, one is emotional only.
Sure.
Science has debunked that, but there are still parts that control more logic and one is more feeling.
Yeah.
So you want to do exercises that passes the midline so you could balance the brain out a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
that's the
let me
first step.
yeah, so let me ask you this. You got to deal with some serious heavy stuff with the work that you're doing.
Mhm.
But if I was to put you in a room of all the clients and everybody that you've worked with throughout the years, and you could walk up to a podium and tell them one fun story, one fun adventure, one fun thing about you that may have them see you in a different light, what would you tell that room?
That's interesting. I have to think about it a bit. One fun adventure, you're saying.
Yeah, or a fun story, just something that, that you've done that was memorable, that was fun, that,
Yeah.
that would just kind of cast.
Yeah. I would say right that last year, I don't know if this fun counts as fun for other people, but it was fun for me. I actually self-organized over this group of people, 15 people who are all into nonviolent communication, community building. And we all decided we're gonna have a mini conference.
Yeah,
So we ended up in the middle of nowhere, which is in my book, Kirksville, Missouri. I'm such a city person. I was like born and raised in cities. So I went to middle of nowhere, Kirksville, Missouri. But then we just have like 10 and 10 stay together where we get to have like schedules of like, this is what we do. And we had really like fascinating conversation. And we also did song circles at night. I got into something called playback theater, which is a form of improv. Actually, I got exposed there. And just having that group of people for 15 days where we cook, clean, and have these really connecting experience,
Yeah.
that was really fun. And also what was made it so much fun was that all of us had a level of nonviolent communication training and
Yeah.
practice. So we weren't afraid of big emotions coming up. And when somebody's big emotion did come up or difficult things were like there's always someone with enough skill to then say, okay, I can hold the space for you. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very precious space to be in. Like
Yeah.
imagine if everyone could be like, hey, you're having a difficult situation, instead of walking away or pretending I didn't see you,
Yeah.
like let me hold it for you, hold it with you until you can hold it by yourself. Right.
Yeah, that's a great story. It's so weird you say Kirksville, Missouri. My son is in Special Olympics, and just yesterday I found out the state games are going to be in Kirksville, and I was like, "Where is that?" Totally random. Totally.
Totally, yeah. And I think I'm also such a city person. So for me, like they had chickens, and that was fun for me.
Yeah.
We did gardening, and then there was no light pollution. Like you
Right.
look up and the stars were like bright and
Uh,
shining. Like I think there's also a certain thing. Well, we also had to check for ticks every night. I don't think that was that much fun.
yeah. No, it's never fun. No.
No, we
That.
were
Yeah, I know about that very well. So, of all of these things that you've done and accomplished and evolved into, what are you the proudest of?
think ability to step into my voice and being visible, even doing this with you.
Yeah.
If you the context is that to be people in order to work with me, they need to know me. They need to have the experience of me, right? So one of my former managers became my clients. And when I think back about it, why? Why did she choose me? Like she has been coached before, she got with people. It's because she had that 1 year experience of working with me, like I told you, transforming that team from a team that had culture that wasn't working to now it was getting clients, and then the morale just went high.
Yeah.
So how do I give people that experience? But how do I give that people that experience when growing up I was told, be quiet,
Right.
don't ask so many questions, shut up, right? I think these are experiences we may have also had. So the world tells us to be loud, right?
Yeah.
To like let your freak flag fly or whatever version of that. But yet, if we've been told that, especially as children, are not as empowered, and our survival literally depends on our parents to take our caregivers to take care of us, and we've been conditioned, or I've been conditioned to say, be quiet, right? Be respectful. Let other elders and other people speak first. Then when do I get to speak? And
Yeah.
even when I do get to speak, what do I choose to speak about, right? So I think these are the things that, and it's a journey. I can't say like, yeah, come right here. I have this amazing theory. Come and talk to me, right? And it's such a process, and loving that, right? Even if it's not easy.
So at the end of the day, Nancy, everyone has a perspective. They have an idea of who they think you are, family, friends, clients, but you run the show. What's your idea of who you are? Who do you think you are?
I'm a person who's willing to try things. I'm willing to be persistent for a while, but also a person who wants to get that sweet spot of what really helps people and also what I really enjoy. So right now, even right now, I'm working on a speech. I want to take all these ideas I'm floating by you and really put it succinctly almost into a thesis and see if it could, serve the world.
Yeah.
But even that is humbling, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, combining the sweet spot, I think I'm still on that journey to find the sweet spot between what do people actually really need? And sometimes what they need and what they really need, think they need, and what they really need are two different things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but then what's the entryway so that they want to go deeper? And also, what am I willing to do? Like, I'm not a therapist. I'm not going to touch a childhood. That will be very amoral and unethical of me. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about the behaviors that you have now, right? And put it, and whether you need the context of childhood, that's up to you.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to reach out, anybody has questions, they want to hire you, delve into your world further, where do they go?
Yeah, so you have show notes and you have my links. One is on LinkedIn. So Nancy Lee, Li. So I like to say it's like Jet Li, not Bruce Lee.
Right. Yes, there you go.
Because some people are like Lee. I'm like, no, it's Li. Jet Li, not
Yes.
Bruce Lee, if you're into martial arts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, love those martial arts growing up. On LinkedIn. and also put in Philadelphia Coach, because there's actually quite a number of Nancy Lees out there.
Okay.
You can also come to my website, and my website is a bit harder to spell, so I'm listeners, viewers, please use the show notes.
Yeah, and I will have all that in the show notes. Nancy, this has been wonderful. It's so great to meet you. Thank you for your story, and best of luck in the future. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Hello, friends. Joe Dimino here. I just wanted to let you know that after 30 years or so, I have finally released my first book of poetry through the mighty Spartan Press here in Kansas City, Missouri. As the creator and host of both Neon Jazz Radio and the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino podcast, along with being a visual artist, I'm ready to embark on a new adventure and want you to be a part of it. You can get a copy online via Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and actually on the streets in Kansas City at the great Prospero's bookstore off 39th Street. You can also visit joedimino.com for links to the book, to more poetry, and everything in my world, including paintings. Thanks for all of the love and support over the years, and please dig the words.